Hello and welcome. If you're gearing up for a Windows Administrator interview, you've come to the right place. Today, we're diving into some key questions you might face, plus tips on how to tackle them confidently. Let's kick things off with our first question about teamwork during a system outage. Can you share an experience where you collaborated with a team to solve a major system outage as a Windows Administrator? This question aims to understand how well you work in a team, especially under pressure, and what role you take in resolving critical system issues. Now, let's look at a few tips to help you answer this effectively. Clearly describe the outage scenario and the systems that were affected. Explain your specific role and how you interacted with the team. Walk through the steps you and the team took to resolve the issue. Mention the outcome of the situation and any improvements made afterward. Share any lessons learned or actions taken to prevent the problem in the future. To give you an idea, here's an example of how you might answer.
In my previous position, we faced a significant network outage impacting all users. As a Windows administrator, I teamed up with the network department to identify the problem. We found that a malfunctioning switch was the cause and needed replacement. I managed communications with affected users and documented our entire response process. Following this incident, we enhanced our monitoring systems to avoid future occurrences.
By the way, we're only covering a handful of questions in this video, but I've prepared a free PDF with all 30 top interview questions for Windows Administrator. It also includes example answers and tips to help you prepare with confidence. The download link is just below. Can you describe a conflict you had with a colleague over a technical decision and how you handled it? Interviewers ask this to gauge your conflict resolution skills and how you navigate technical disagreements in a professional setting. Here are some pointers to help you frame your answer. Identify a specific conflict related to a technical decision. Clearly, state both your perspective and that of your colleague. Explain the steps you took to resolve the conflict. Highlight any collaborative problem solving or compromises you both reached. Conclude with the outcome and what you learned from the experience. Here's an example to illustrate how you might respond.
During a project, I had a disagreement with a colleague about adopting a third-party library, which I felt posed security risks. We presented our views during a team meeting, and I recommended further investigation. After conducting research and discussions, we decided on an alternative library that met our security standards, ultimately strengthening our project and enhancing our teamwork.
Tell us about a challenging problem you faced with Windows Server and how you resolved it. This question is designed to assess your problem-solving skills and your ability to tackle complex technical issues. Here are some tips to help you structure your response. Choose a specific problem that had a significant impact on operations. Explain the steps you took to diagnose the issue. Mention the tools or resources you used to address the problem. Describe the outcome and any insights you gained from the experience. Relate the experience to the role of a Windows administrator. Let's look at an example answer for some inspiration.
I once dealt with a persistent crashing issue on a Windows server due to a memory leak. My first step was to examine the event viewer for error logs, which pointed me to the problematic service. Using Performance Monitor, I tracked memory usage and found a third-party application at fault. Updating the application resolved the stability issues, highlighting the vital role of monitoring tools in server management.
Imagine the main domain controller has failed. How would you handle the recovery process? This question tests your disaster recovery skills and your ability to restore critical systems efficiently. Let's go through some tips to tackle this question. Identify where your latest backup of the domain controller is stored. Assess the hardware to determine if a replacement is necessary. Perform the recovery using Active Directory tools and restore from backup. Ensure the restored domain controller is functioning correctly and replicate it to other servers. Communicate with users about potential downtime and monitor services post-recovery. Here's how you might approach your answer.
First, I'd locate the most recent backup of the main domain controller. Then I would evaluate the hardware to see if any components need replacing. Using Active Directory tools, I'd restore the domain controller from the backup and ensure it's working properly, replicating it across other servers. Finally, I'd inform users about the situation and closely monitor the services to ensure stability.
If a critical Windows server has crashed and won't reboot, what steps would you take to diagnose and resolve the issue? This situational question assesses your ability to systematically troubleshoot and resolve a server crash. Let's explore some tips for crafting your response. Start by checking for any hardware failure indicators. Try booting into safe mode to bypass corrupt drivers and review logs. Use recovery tools from Windows installation media if necessary. Analyze system event logs for errors leading to the crash. Consider a system restore if recent changes triggered the crash. Here's a sample answer to help you get started.
I would begin by inspecting the server for any hardware issues like power supply or hard drive failures. If hardware appears intact, I'd attempt to boot the server in safe mode and analyze the logs for any errors. Using Windows installation media, I'd access recovery options and check the event logs for further clues. If needed, a system restore could be performed to resolve any recent changes causing the crash.
Before we wrap up, remember you can get all 30 questions, example answers, and step-by-step tips in a handy PDF. Totally free. Just grab it below.